host, Delaina with Zero Dark Thirsty, and I'm here with my segment host, Pedro and Tony. They're so amazing. They are going to kick us off with our senior to senior series, and I'm so proud of them. They worked so hard to help put this together, and here they are. And we've got our guest today, Steven Weston. Yes, from Verizon. Oh my gosh. Steve, you and I have been friends. I mean, we've been like on the friend scale for a few years now.
Yeah, we even worked with each other a few times. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I'm grateful that you're coming on to come support us. And I'm always been such a huge fan of yours. I love your posts and the way you write and things like that. So I'm gonna switch gears and send it on over to my segment host, Pedro. Tony, what's going on, man?
Not much, not much. Thank you, Delaina. Thanks for having us come on board. Always happy to represent, and hopefully, like what we talked about before we got this going, just share some stories, provide some good nuggets for a lot of the folks out there that may be, at their own crossroads of life, because it's a tough market out there right now. So I can only imagine what everybody's going through. So hopefully, thanks to you and to Steve for coming on board, obviously making this happen. I love the cause that we're doing this for. And hopefully, we can help a few people out, because at the end of the day, that's really what it's about, is to, put some positivity in people's lives and, kind of share how we did it, because it's going to come out, how Pedro did it, how I did it, and obviously how Steve did it, because he is the guest of honor today.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. I want to echo with what Tony's saying. Look, we're 7 days into the 12 chapter book of 2026, and everybody's already trying to revert from that new year, new me stuff. So hopefully the nuggets that are going to be dropped and everything that we're going to go through and talk about and the gems you're going to pour into everybody, Steve, looking forward to learning what you got to bring. Now that I know that you're a Steelers fan, we can still be friends, okay? But so excited to learn more about you, man.
Stuff. I'm gonna tell you, it's king cake season in where I'm from. So it's Mardi Gras season. It's all about the food right now. So that new year, new me is from January 1 to January 6th. Then it's Mardi Gras.
That was short lived.
There you go. It happens. It happens.
It does.
Wonderful.
Well, thanks.
Well, Steve, man, tell us about, I know Tony was going to lean into it, but let's get introduced to Steve. Delaina knows you. I know a little bit about you. Tony knows a little bit about you. Introduce yourself to everybody who's going to be listening into this, man.
Yeah, sure. So I'm an Air Force veteran, did 22 years straight out of high school. Was in 2 different career fields during my career, during my time in. I spent about 9 years in air transportation, more specifically in the contingency response wing out of McGuire Air Force Base. For those that don't know what that is, we played a pivotal role at the beginning of the Iraqi and Afghanistan wars, where we were embedded with soft forces, infantry, 10th Mountain, 36 Marine Corps, the MEUs, and we established bear base operations. So like I was on the team that established Kandahar, for example, in 2001, when Mattis was on site. Did that for like 9 years, a lot of bear base support. I finished up that career field out of Bragg, where I assisted JSOC compound in 82nd Airborne out of the 3rd APS, where I helped with loading the cargo, the training missions, helping the Talsies with the jumpers, things like that. And then I was ready for a change, so I put in an application, became a recruiter, and then I finished out the last 13 years of my career in Air Force recruiting service. So, I didn't just work as a boot on the ground. I helped put boots in the service, and
in the booth.
with you guys, both you guys were, were recruiters, so you know what that means, right? We're not just recruiters. We're counselors. We're everybody's dad, mom, uncle, brother, pastor, career counselor. We wear many hats in recruiting, because we're there to guide, inspire, and recruit, right? So, so I like doing that. And after my 22 years in the Air Force, I transitioned through the Hiring Our Heroes program, and I managed to land myself on Verizon's SkillBridge recruitment team, more formally known as the military programs team, where I assisted a handful of folks in bringing transitioning service members into our organization and our company. Fast forward a few years, and I just finished my tenure as the Chief of Staff of Marketing Communications, and now I'm on the Chief of Staff's team for the chief growth officer for Verizon's VCG organization.
Bro, we're not worthy, dog. Already, we're not worthy, man.
I'm just a dude trying to be another dude. I'm nobody special, man. I'm just a dude trying to be another dude. But I appreciate that.
That's
No,
some
brother.
that's some
Go
amazing
ahead, Tony.
stuff there. That's some amazing stuff there, Steve. Especially how you basically over the course of you did half your time and then you went and finished the other half in recruiting. I was
Yeah.
looking at your LinkedIn profile and I saw that you're like media famous too because your role at Verizon has you being like the face, or you're the face of military recruiting for Verizon, or at least you were at that role. So
I was at one point, yeah.
yes, I love how you did that. Can you kind of talk to us? And because a lot of what we do as recruiters, people think that hey, we can talk to anybody, do anything. But like Delaina was alluding to when we came on a little while ago, sometimes people just clam up like that, right? As soon as the camera's on them. So can you kind of talk to us? Maybe somebody else on the outside is thinking about doing something along those lines. How did
Yeah, sure.
how did the Air Force recruiting how did that work help you for this role, especially when you were like doing social media and advertising with your mug out there for all the cats to see?
Well, I mean, a lot of it's, you ever heard the saying attitude over aptitude?
Oh yeah.
It doesn't always work in every situation, but, for me, it was a lot of that. It was just having the right attitude. I'm a very positive, upbeat dude, and I kind of go with the flow. When I was going through my transition, one thing that recruiting did help me with is it taught me how to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And, going through a military transition is probably one of the most uncomfortable things you're going to do. And
Oh,
so
yeah.
when you're going through that transition, I just grabbed a bull by the horns, was positive and upbeat about it. And I just made sure that I capitalized on every communication and interaction that I had with people, whether if it led to something for me or if it at least helped somebody else out. And just over time, and while working in that first position I had at Verizon, I just made it a point to make the relationship building and communication and being positive and upbeat just like part of my everyday. Like, no matter who I'm talking to, no matter what I'm doing. Hey, Steve, you want to go to a convention? Shit, let's do it. Let's go. Like, who's coming? Steve, you want to go do a parade? Yeah, sure. When we got to do it? What time I got to be there? Always trying to be present and just trying to provide value anytime I could, even for the smallest of things. And just over time, you just build a reputation like, hey, anytime I need something, Steve's always available. He's always willing to put his hat in the ring, jump at the chance to help somebody, or, it doesn't always have to be I get something out of it. If somebody else gets something out of it, but it benefits the whole team or the organization or an external organization, I was just very willing to do that, and put the time and effort and attitude into it. So that's
You know,
really, I mean, good.
hey,
Yeah,
I love what you dropped right now. Your reputation, develop the relationships you needed, man, down
that's
the
it.
road, right? So that reputation is going to carry it for most folks when they leave the service. Even if you didn't have the best reputation, you can still rebuild it. But you got to work on that stuff
Absolutely.
now. Once you know better, you got to do better. And I'm really interested in what made you choose Verizon. And I know you went through
Yeah,
Hired Our
sure.
Heroes, and obviously for everybody who's going to go through those skill bridge opportunities, and you're out there kind of making a selection. What made you pick Verizon by somebody else? Or did you even really have an opportunity to make a selection?
I was very fortunate, many of us, we start our retirement transitions or separation transitions for those that separating or and not retiring. You know, a lot of us, we figure it out a couple of years before, like we might not have every detail figured out, but we at least know that we want to get out, right? We at least know, like, we have some sort of an idea. And I had a few folks that were that I had served with previously that had gotten out and retired a few years before me. And so when I finally made the decision to hit the button, and drop my retirement package, they reached out to me and they were like, hey, like, these are some things that you should be doing. You should be talking to people. You should be, starting to build your relationships. You should be sharing your story. And oh, by the way, did you know I worked for this awesome company? Like, you should probably check them out, right? Dude, I'll be honest, man, like, Verizon wasn't even on my radar, man. Like, I was already talking to other companies, even though I was a Hiring Our Heroes cohort guy. I was already doing interviews and talking to companies before the resume dropped. Like, I was
Mm,
trying to figure out, like, what's the best fit for me. What do I want to do? What I don't want to do? And through my interactions with the folks that I knew that reach out to me, making a recommendation to look at Verizon, I started going to their info sessions. And that's where I met my future boss in one of those info sessions. And just like how you guys interacted with me, I was just very frank. Like, this is what I want. This is what I'm about. This is what I do. This is what I've done. I'm just looking to be able to keep doing that. And he was like, cool, if you're in hiring our heroes, like come to our info session again, like get to know the rest of the team and we'll see what happens. There's no guarantee that they're going to have a position, but if on the off chance a headcount opened up and they'd keep me in mind. And so I just maintained that relationship and fostered it and kept talking to them. And wouldn't you know, when the resume dropped, they called me like day 2 and did my interview.
Wow.
I interviewed with other companies too. I think I did about 30 interviews, in those first 2.5 weeks. It was very quickly that I figured out that Verizon had its stuff together. Like their representatives were very well informed. They communicated well. They were very sincere, but their program was very well put together. It had a great reputation and they had a very high full-time conversion rate. And it just, you started adding all the things together. And I was like, yeah, these guys got it together, man. Like, I think I'm going to put my hat in the ring. And I just flat out told them, like, you know what? Like, I know I interviewed with a bunch of places, but you guys are my number one. Like, if you guys are willing to have me, this is where I want to be. They felt the same way. So that's kind of how that worked out.
That's
Okay.
awesome, man. That's
That
awesome. Go ahead, sir.
that sounds like you had an awesome experience there, man. I mean, it's good that you landed at that role, and believe it or not, you must be one of the most analytical, smart Marines I ever met in my life, right? Because this dude's he's always throwing out statistics. He said that 48% of us veterans are going to transition to 2 or 3 different jobs within the
Yes.
first 2 or 3 years, right?
Yes. Yeah.
I'm glad to see that you stuck with the same company. You've had different roles at the same company, and
Yeah,
you did
yeah.
mention that fit was important to you. So can you kind of talk to us a little bit to, when you started looking for the fit? A lot of us go through an identity crisis as we're getting out, right? What am I going to be? What level do I want to come in at? I want to be the vice president. So
Yeah,
what
I want to be the CEO.
kind of? Oh yeah, of course. What were your thoughts, as you were applying to this role that you ended up getting and other roles, obviously, regarding like, what level you should come in at, what kind of fit you're going to be within an organization? Because, most of us get out doing director level work, but they're small teams, generally speaking, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
and a director at one place is a lot different than a director at the other. So I'm curious to see what you can share regarding your thoughts, because I know there's most of the veterans that I talk to, man, they all want to be directors. I'm like, well, me too, but it doesn't quite work out that way, right? So curious to see what your thoughts are regarding that.
Yeah, sure. I counseled a lot of, folks during my time in recruiting, thousands, that were transitioning service members. And a common theme I would share with them is I practice what I preach, number one. Number two, is I don't do things because other people think that's what I should do. I do things based on what's the needs of my household. What are my personal needs? What do I actually need? They teach us in recruiting to find the need behind the need in an applicant. Don't just ask them what they want. You got to ask open and closed questions to get at the root of the problem, right? And so I just reversed it, looked in the mirror and did it to myself. Like, oh yeah, I want to be this, that, and the other, but what do I really need? And when I actually sat down, I took a piece of paper and I drew like a T, pros and cons, right? Like, what do
Yeah.
I want to do? What I
The
don't
old
want to
wo-
do?
the old weighing clothes, right?
You know what I'm talking about? Hey, always be closed, ABCs, right? But like,
Hey.
I had to figure out like what I want to do. I don't want to just go chasing things. I want to do things where I can provide value and be satisfied doing it. Like gives me purpose, right? I just don't want to be bouncing around. And having come out of recruiting and things, I'm very I'm used to being around corporate recruiters and not living near a base. And, I see what other people go through because I go to all those career fairs and colleges and all those things, right? So when I was going out, getting out of service, that's kind of what I put myself through. And I knew I wanted to help people. I knew talent acquisition was something that I wanted to keep doing. I got a lot of enjoyment as a recruiter. I mean, don't get me wrong. I was a we're called flight chiefs in the Air Force, but it's basically what a station commander is for most other recruiting services. But I ran a recruiting team, and while that was cool, and I had a great experience doing that, I really missed that first tour I had. Where you're the EA recruiter and you're putting people and you're taking them to MEPS and you're being that advisor, that counselor, and it's not always sunshine or rainbows, but like, fast forward, there's people now there. I'm watching people I put into service, put on tech, put on E7, having kids, getting married, and seeing how joining the military changed their lives. And to me, I got a lot of like, that was very rewarding for me. So when I was searching for a career field, that's what I was looking for. And so that's
Mm.
why the recruiting job at Verizon was very good and something that I gravitated to because it filled that. It gave me purpose. Like there was no question of what I wanted to do. That is what I wanted to do. And then I got to do it, So when I'm talking to other folks that want to transition, that's what you got to do for yourself. I think Tony, like, yeah, man, I talk to people and they want to like conquer the world in that first job. And I was more interested in getting my foot in the door, wrapping my head around the business, building relationships, networking. And then
I'm
once
gonna
I had a
jump in on
firm under,
something.
yeah,
Hold
jump,
on, hold
let's
on.
go.
I'm gonna jump in on something real quick because there's two parts to the emotional transition that veterans really struggle with. One is when they hang up the uniform, which
Hmm.
they're usually already working by then. And the second one is the internal PCS move. Like you feel like you have to move. You need to
Right.
leave this job. You don't need to. You're a civilian now, but there's that body clock, right? So something that you just said, I kind of want to elaborate on. You were saying that you came in and you were integrating, like your focus was is to integrate
Correct.
into
Yeah.
their business and mold yourself to what they need and figure out how their business works and stuff like that. And I really want you, if you wouldn't mind, really expand upon that and dive into that because
Oh,
that
yeah.
is a consistent issue that our senior leadership face when working in the civilian sector is that both one is that hanging up the uniform and realizing the civilian sector is a happy mess and they're happy about their mess. And then
Yes, they
two
are.
is that piece, right? That internal PCS move. But I'll let you go ahead.
So that is a great point. I'm glad you stopped me. So let me dive into that a little bit more. So, as you were saying, yes, learn the business, learn what makes people tick, learn who your go-tos are. Like a lot of active listening, one of my mentors was like, don't always feel like you need to produce right away. Don't always feel like you have imposter syndrome. Don't always feel like you always need to be doing something. It is okay to take a step back and listen and learn and pan the room and watch what other people are doing and learn. If we spend so much time producing, we're not actually learning. It's not like the military. In the military, we're put into positions based on time and grade, time and service. Your MOS was whatever. Is it the fall, the spring, the equinox, whatever the hell's going on with the DOD or DO or whatever, whatever. In the civilian world, there is no boundaries or rules like that. You can climb if you want, you can chill where you're at if you want, you can change career fields, go diagonal, lateral, vertical, whatever. The world's your playground, So if you want to do something, like research that industry, and when you get in there, take the time to learn it. Don't feel like you immediately have to start leading teams or, be a director or a vice president or whatever. It is okay to take a step back. Not that you have to, but like it is okay to take a step back. And I would say that it really benefited me taking a step back, because if I would have jumped into, I don't know, an associate director position right out the gate, I would have been treading, it would have been tough because I don't know the business. Yeah, I know how to lead people. Yeah, I know how to refine processes and I know how to recruit and talk to people, but I have no idea what Verizon does, what their products are, what the importance of it is, what piece of the pie I play. There's so much to learn in an industry, that I wouldn't have been doing the people that would have reported to me, I wouldn't have been doing them a service. They wouldn't have had the leader they should have had because I would have been spending a lot of time trying to play catch up. getting
And
in
how do
and
you think
you
that
know,
would have affected your emotional
oh
transition
my God, you'd
if
be stressed out all the freaking time, like, am I doing enough? Like, that's where that imposter syndrome kind of jumps in sometimes. Like, do I really belong here? Did I make a bad decision? Did I in over my head? I didn't have those issues because I didn't get in over my head. I kind of started at a very comfortable pace, and then I paced myself, and then I just over time took on more and more and learned more and got more involved. So to the point where, yeah, three years later, yeah, I've been able to do 3 different positions in 3 years. And I'm getting into bigger and bigger pieces of the mission and of the pie. And I'm not burnt out. I don't have imposter syndrome. I'm still learning things. I don't know everything. I'm still learning new things every day, but I'm not like stressed out of my mind. So yeah.
Hey, I'm glad Delaina leaned into that because look, just think 2 days ago, nothing to do with work. I told my wife, like, hey, wouldn't it be great to get a new house? Like every couple of
Right.
years we got a new house. Like we had a change of scenery. And a lot of times the change of scenery can reinvigorate your energy to be
Yeah.
more productive, to be, a better member on a team. And I love that you're leaning into you're committed to a little bit of a longer haul. You want to like
Yeah.
grow with the company. I know Tony's said it before, and I love the way he tells me about it because we can want to do too much too soon. And
Yes.
the expectation is we're trying to carry what we did inside the uniform out into the corporate world. And then when we try to say those things out loud, that level of respect, but also the competency that's necessary to be effective, it's going to fall on deaf ears. Like you said, hey, I could do all this stuff about recruiting. I could be in leadership roles. I'm a great leader. But how
Sure.
much do I understand the industry with Verizon? If they'd have put you in a leadership role, you'd have immediately started feeling some imposter syndrome because you'd have been like, man, they want me to do X, Y, Z, and I only know about 1, 2, 3. This is going to put me into a position where I'm going to affect myself negatively. So it's awesome that you did the opposite of that, man. Not many of us do that piece. So I'm glad you brought that out.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it doesn't mean not everybody's ready for it. There are some people that are just go-getters or their situation allows them to put themselves out there and do that. And that's great. But you really have to be honest with yourself. You got to do an internal SWOT analysis, man. You got to know what your strengths are. You got to know what your weaknesses are. You got to know where you need to gain ground and learn, and you got to be willing also to take constructive criticism too. Like I'd be lying if I said I didn't get some constructive criticism when I came in because you said a magic word, expectations, right? My
Hmm.
expectations were based off of how the military trained and developed me, which was sense of urgency right now. Like there is no waiting. We do it now, right? We get the mission done, right? Like there is no like, dude, I'll talk to you on
Hey,
Friday and it's Monday. You know what I mean?
Steve, I found myself wanting to get everything done right away. And
Like
it was like,
yesterday, right?
it don't have to be done today. Like there's
Right.
time, every
Exactly.
hill is not the hill to die on. So yeah, like that's a
But it
great
was
thing to
cool.
have, but it's kind of hard to leave.
It was cool though, because like
Mhm.
I felt like a lot of weight came off of my shoulders once I kind of realized that and like was cognizant of it because then
Mhm.
I could feel myself at times even now like I can feel myself starting to get kind of worked up and then I got to go hold up like let me dial it back like and it really it takes a lot of stress off of you like you know what like don't answer me tomorrow like it'll be okay like you know what I mean like it or you know what if we don't get to it Friday afternoon you know what like let's go have a good weekend we'll get to it on Monday we're in the military we'd be like man we're not leaving this office until it's done if that's 9 p.m. bro like we're not leaving once
God forbid you
you
stick
start
up
to
for
relax.
yourself. I've worked with
Yeah.
veterans who are early into transition, and I'm like, bro, and there's like what and the jump to is to think that everybody around you is lazy. Oh, you just don't want to work. You just and I'm like, bro, like it's seven
That's not
o'clock at
it.
night. Like, go spend
That's not
time with
it.
your family.
The power of saying no is so good on this side. It's it's like a new flavor. I think I ate a lot of it when I first took off the uniform. It was like, no, 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 no. Because you can now start thinking about yourself. And
Yeah.
in that, right? So that was one of the biggest lessons I learned. And I wish I would have grabbed it sooner when I took the uniform off was the power of saying no. What's
Yes.
one of the greatest lessons you learned after you took the uniform off and you came into this part of your life? If you would share that with us, please.
Well, really, and I'm a team player, man. 9 combat deployments. Like I get it, man. Mission first, whatever. It is what it is when you're on active duty. But when you get out of the service, it's time to reinvest back in yourself. Not that you weren't when you were on active duty. I mean, some of us went to school and got degrees and certifications and things like that because we knew what was up. But reinvest in yourself in different ways, not just education. Reinvest like back into your family. Like, I take my kids to school every morning. Guess what I didn't get to do for 22 years was take my kids to school, pick my kids up from school, go to plays, go, because the mission, right? So, like,
Yeah.
reinvest in yourself, like, get that quality time in, set boundaries. Like, there's nothing wrong
Mm,
with setting boundaries. Weekend time is family time, man. Like, but it doesn't mean I won't ever help out somebody on a weekend, but it ain't going to be an expectation. I'm going to do it every weekend. That needs to be clear cut and understood. You can be a team player, but set boundaries, and those boundaries are there
mm.
to protect you. They're there to protect your mental health, your physical health. If you like going to the gym, it gives you time where like, yo, at 5 o'clock, I'm going to the gym, or I go in the morning before work or like whatever. You have the ability to work your plan and plan your work, and take care of yourself. If you don't take care of you, nobody else is going to take care of you, you know, like that's,
100
That's a
percent.
true
you know,
statement. That that's a true statement because oftentimes, what I realized when we were in, and it's like it's funny just talking to all of us, and we all have the same mentality. Like we're gonna try to do as much
Mhm.
as we can every day, day in, day out, and we never say no because we seem to think that if you say no or if you don't take this kind of job, right, you're parking it, and then while you're parking it, somebody else is passing you by, right? Which leads into something else, right? Wanted to just basically touch base with you regarding some of our transitions as senior veterans. I've talked to a lot of folks that, for one reason or the other, I think that the fact that the military does take good care of us while we're in, we do get the good benefits, we do get the good medical, we get the opportunity to advance. Not everybody does at the same pace, but
Sure.
the opportunities are there. I mean, and sometimes there are things that happen within the services that, maybe some jobs are slower promoted than others. But I think as we gain experience, though, a lot of us just kind of get comfortable and then don't take care of ourselves while we're in. And I think one of the biggest things we can do for ourselves while we're in is invest in ourselves, get those certifications, get those degrees as much as possible. Because you know what? A degree, it levels the playing field for when we get out. Because guess what? Everybody else has a degree. So can you kind of touch on that?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, I knocked out all my education while I was a recruiter, which is wild, So here I am making goal and doing the grind and finishing my school at the same time. But funny thing about me is like I don't have a master's degree. I don't have a PMP. I don't have a PMI. I don't have, I have sales certifications. I think what was something that I was doing chasing the career that I was chasing was what are the needs of that career field? Like what skills,
Mm.
hard and soft, are they looking for? Because you could have all the degrees and certifications in the world, but if in an interview you're not touching on the needs of that job description, it might not matter, and vice versa. It goes the other way too. It goes depends on what you're applying to, what industry you're breaking into. Like if you want to get into cyber, they're very cert heavy. If you don't have the necessary certs, you might not be able to break in where you want to break into, or you might have the certs, but how much actual hands-on experience do you have? Like the certs should complement hands-on experience. But what I find is a lot of people do what I call cert smashing.
Oh
They'll go
yeah.
out and cert smash,
I
20
call it Christmas
things,
tree. I call it
you
Christmas.
know,
They Christmas tree the certs. Like
Christmas
they
tree,
get,
like
they're like, I get this one
you
and
got all
this
the
one and
blinky
this one and this
blinkies
one.
and you look real fancy. But then in an interview, when I said, okay, now how many years relevant experience, for example, do you have as an ethical hacker? How many investigations have you done? Like, blah, 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 blah. And I start riddling through some of the, the tech jargon. And they're like, oh, no, I've never done that before. Oh, no, I've only done it in school. Or, oh, no, I just got a cert. Like I've never actually like done that before. But I'm like, yeah, bro, but like this position wants somebody with 3 to 4 years hands-on experience. Like we don't want you to just have the cert. You need to be able to hit the ground and know how to do it already. Like some,
Steve, why
you
you
know.
You killing their dreams, bro. They just want to win, dog.
No, but this is good feedback because, how do I fix that, right?
Yeah.
Sandboxing, nonprofit work, reaching out early.
Mm,
If you know in 2 years you want to break into cybersecurity, for example, since we're already on that subject, and that's what you want to do, then 2 years out, start getting into it, start sandboxing, start practicing, start picking up like pro bono work, get a
I
portfolio
used to
built.
tell people, Steve, when I would talk to students, they were like, "Well, how do you figure I'm supposed to learn how to do cybersecurity?" I was just like, "You have a neighborhood full of people." I was like, "Heck,
Yeah.
I tell you what, roll up to the barracks and do a free vulnerability scan, and I promise you there is going to be a virus on every one of those computers.
Or
So roll
malicious
up there
or,
and tell them that
whatever.
you'll clean the viruses off their computer for free, and now you got your
Yeah.
ACAS experience."
Absolutely. Let's take talent acquisition, where I came out of and what you guys did. Not only did I do that in the military, but I've been in the VFW for 20 plus years. One of the things I did as an active duty recruiter is I helped revamp my local area's recruiting efforts for VFW membership. So I ran table
There you
setups. I went to
go.
conventions. I taught them how to do it, how to go out and public speak. I went to the festivals and did table setups. And so like if you're let's say you're coming out of maintenance and you're like, look, I liked maintenance, but I don't want to do that no more. I want to get into HR. Okay, cool. Go volunteer and do stuff that revolves around what that is. And then that counts as experience. So when you're doing an interview, yeah, I did
yeah.
volunteer work with the American Legion. I ran, I was a district officer. I ran whatever, I trained people. I hands-on did it, and I did it for 2 years or however long you did it for. It's all relevant. But education is absolutely a big piece. I think you have to have both the education and that hands-on experience. That's the total package.
Yes, indeed.
I prefer independent consultant,
So
vice
there you go.
volunteer, right?
Yep.
Words have meaning. We say the right thing, gets the right attention. But I'm glad you brought
Yeah.
it up because you don't have to wait until somebody gives you the opportunity. You can actually go create the space
Yeah.
for it through that. And you already strike me as the community builder. That's like a natural thing that has come out of you is like, I'm going to immerse myself in my community. I'm going to build all the relationships and open the doors and shake hands and kiss the babies. Now, what are the tools that have made you the most successful professionally and personally since you left the uniform?
It's really been the skills that recruiting taught us. Open and close
Mm.
questions, the need behind the need, building relationships, the power of networking. Anytime I have a conversation with somebody, I always end it with, what can I do to help you out? What can I do to make your day better? Most of the time people will say, no, there's nothing. Just the simple act of you even asking it shows that you care. And if they think you care, it's going to build trust, right? And if you have trust with somebody, it's a lot easier to ask a friend to help you than it is to ask somebody you never met before to help you, right? So
Yeah.
don't be afraid to it's I give more than I take, well more than I take, because I understand that concept. It can't always be about me. It needs to be about other people around you when you're breaking into the corporate world or whatever world you're breaking into. How can you help the people around you? Get to know them. They're people. They're not just people, they're not just assets. They're people. I think that's a very important thing that people need to do.
Who are you mentoring right now that you're kind of like saying, hey, if you followed me and you follow this plan, it's going to prevent you from the heartache and pain that you're probably going to feel if you don't. I'm interested because that mentorship piece and that
Sure.
foundation, in my opinion, it never goes away. You don't have
Sure.
to say their name, but are you currently mentoring someone or some people on these things?
Currently, right now, I don't have a specific individual that I mentor. In the past, I mentored quite a
Mhm.
few, uh, all the
Got
time.
you.
With my newer roles, time sensitive, time conscious. I just don't have the free time that I did before. But I've built a large network on LinkedIn. Folks that interact with me, they're more than welcome to DM me. The thing is, the only thing that I ask is don't just blind DM me. Go like, hey, bro, you want to mentor me? Let's take the time and listen to what let's build the relationship first. There are folks at Verizon right now. They've been working at Verizon for a little while. It just doesn't, it's not just me mentoring them. We mentor each other. I had a
Yeah.
coffee meetup that Tuesday mornings at 9 o'clock. I had a veteran coffee meetup at Basking Ridge. Every Tuesday I would be down at the coffee house in our facility, and any veterans that wanted to come down and just talk. We could talk about anything. We could talk about football. We could talk about work. We could talk about VA. We could talk about whatever you want to talk about, man. And I did that for over a year, with folks. I mentor that way, in my
Yeah.
local community, I'm active with like the VFW and scouting and things like that. So I mentor young people too, like not just the military community.
Yeah.
I think, but you touched on
You made it
a piece a little bit
you made
ago,
it more
though.
intentional and less transactional is what you're saying. Like
Correct.
people
Yeah.
should be networking in a way that's intentional, not
Yeah.
transactional, not what can you do for me? Here's my resume,
Correct.
fix it. Find me a job. What's out there? Be my referral. All that is
Right.
transactional, which is actually does the opposite for you. And I like that you brought up that intentional networking. Absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do the work for you. I had a mentor when I transitioned, and he was there to tell me, like, hey, these are things you should be doing, and whatever, whatever. Next time we talk, show me what you've been working on,
Ooh.
and he would give me things to work on or things to do, or he would ask me to, and so like, if you're looking for a mentor, don't just come to
Mhm.
them, expect them to spoon feed you everything. Like, you need to lean in. It's your transition. Like, you should be coming to them and telling them what you want to do, where you want to be, what's your goal, what's your 5-year plan, like what are you currently doing right now. They can help you better if they have that information in that context.
So Tony said that the first time we talked was like, this is your transition. You got to own it. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad you said that because some folks they're transactional. They're looking to collect before they try to connect. And I know that networking on in the virtual world, like on LinkedIn, because not everybody has the opportunity to be located physically where you are to have that kneecap to kneecap conversation, right? That's how you know we
Right.
did recruiting. We're saying all those same words. What is the great way for them to connect with you in that virtual space? Is it a comment? Is it the message first? Like, I'm interested, man, because this is even for me. I want to learn too, because
Yeah, sure.
you're succeeding in something that I just retired 2 years ago, bro. And so, you know, I'm a fan, man, and I want to get to the level where you're at. So people want to connect with you. What's the best way to do it?
Right. So LinkedIn was huge for me. I only retired 3 years ago, but I've been able to do what I did because LinkedIn authenticity, I think, is real. There's a
Yeah.
lot of folks that, you don't know if they are or not. I don't, there's no qualms about who I am or what I'm about. I'm just very authentic. I just, I tell it how it is. I'm very straightforward, but I share my story. I don't just talk and parrot things. I practice what I preach, and then I showcase what I'm doing to prove that that's what I do. If you go through my LinkedIn profile and you see everything that I've done in my past career, there is a photo, a video, or whatever showing me doing it. You know, if I said I did something, like, I have relevant proof to show that I did, and I think that's very important because when you interview, that's exactly what you should be doing, right? Like, they're going to go, hey, on your resume, you have all these things listed. Like, what did you do? And like, I can very specifically say, hey, this is what I did. This was the value provided. And this was the result of all of that, and here are the pictures to prove it. Here are the stats here or whatever. I think, LinkedIn helped me because I was able to tell my transition story as I was going through it, which is when Delaina met me. I was going
Oh,
through my
wow.
own transition, and I just was very consistent with it. And then once I, wrapped my head around a lot more, and I had been out for a little while, then I turned it and started like actually like mentoring and helping people, and just even just engaging with people in the comment sections on certain things, and having some constructive back and forths, finding new mentors. I found a lot of good mentors on LinkedIn, like Gary Steersgard's a really good one. I
Oh, I
interact with
love
him
him.
all the
He's
time.
great.
Monty Mitchell's another one. Dara's another one.
Sarah's amazing.
I could name drop like 40 people on LinkedIn that I interact with on a weekly basis. And it doesn't mean we're like meeting up and having coffee every Saturday, but I am interacting with them and building that relationship, and talking and getting to learn who they are and what they're about. And if for somebody that wants to get into networking, don't look for the immediate gratification. It's not a sprint, it's a cross country run. This isn't like you're not running the 400, you know what I mean? Like, your civilian career should be the long game. Like, what's your 5-year plan? Where do you want to be at? how are you going to get there? You can
And I
start
want to
mapping it
jump in
out.
real quick on that and say, when you're looking at your 5-year plan, it doesn't have to always include promotions. It doesn't have to
No.
include these flashy titles. It can include all over the place. If you want to get out and you want to go be a service technician and work on generators and not have to worry about managing anybody,
Yeah.
you could do that and you could be happy as a clam doing that. Um, I know my son's dad, that's his thing. I talked about that with Tony and Pedro. He's still saving lives because he's got to be doing something. He's a part of the rescue squad and propels off the side of the mountain when people get a little swirly,
Hmm.
and stuff. But his regular job, his title's a service technician. And he's making close to 6 figures or right at. So, plus VA, plus retirement, lives in the boonies of Tennessee on the side of a mountain, and he is living his best
I
banjo
love
life.
it, man. That's my I love that part of the Eastern Tennessee, man. That's where it's at,
That's
man.
where it's
That
at.
Gatlinburg area is my gym.
It's
So
such a
I
pretty
say
area.
that,
Man.
because to add into what you were saying, like your 5-year plan is your plan, it's your transition. You can make it whatever you
Yeah.
want.
Well, you touched on a great
Oh
piece,
yeah.
and it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. Is Tony, you kind of hinted on it, and Pedro, you did too a little bit earlier. And it was, when we were having the discussion on like, what does that career look like for me? Like, do I have to be a director out the gate? And what I have to
Yeah.
say about that is that's the thing about the military is they force us into a certain mold. Like we have to every 18 months to 2 years move up, right, and lead people or whatever. When you get out in the civilian world, you don't have to lead people. You can be an individual contributor. You can be an influential leader. You don't have to be the commander of the universe or the chief anymore. You can just be Tony,
And they
and you
make the
could be an
same
individual
money.
contributor. Sometimes you
Yes.
are,
You heard that, Tony.
so,
KCs and managers make the same
you
money.
know,
I wanted exactly some of the things you said earlier, Steve. I wanted to take my daughter to school, man. I wanted to be able
hey,
to attend the sports games, right? I wanted to the time of just like be a dad. That was important to me. And so, like
yep,
what you said, Delaina, that was one of my goals. That was like, this is the first goal in this next couple of years. Be a dad, take my daughter to school, attend ball games, and not have to worry so much about we and just take care of me. Right. Like, because the taking care of the we, that was like, it's fabulous. I felt like very purposeful and stuff, but I didn't have any chance to do my thing. So no, I
yeah,
ran as fast as I could into let me take care of me, let me be a dad, and let me attend the sports games. So now
that's
I love
taking
the
care
fact
of
that,
yourself.
that's the real thing, right? Like if we can't take care of
Mhm.
number one, we can't take care of number two. So no,
I feel
that's
you.
that
I
was like
got
the
four
best thing
kids,
ever,
man.
man.
So I got one in college and I got three in elementary school, man. So like that's real. Like taking my kids to school. I got one in kindergarten. I got another one in first grade and another in fourth grade. And
Wow.
I like taking my kids to school, man, and picking them up and and helping them with homework and stuff. Before my wife had to do all that when I was on active duty.
Yeah.
Like, because I wouldn't get home until later, and then I'd leave early, I was working out of Philadelphia as the station commander. I live 65 miles away, so I was commuting an hour and a half into the office, and then at the end of the day, an hour and a half back doing the recruiting gig, like, now, I don't have that, it's not like that anymore, so I have
Man.
more free time to do family stuff, and that's
Steve,
that's a
you
There's no
huge
one
piece,
getting
man.
drunk on the weekend that you got to answer for on a Monday morning.
Steve,
Let's just point that little one out.
Hell
Yeah.
yeah.
and
They
you've
were
been
just
dropping
devil dogs doing devil dog things, Sometimes it happens.
What's up,
Hey, but
Tony?
you gave us some real good nuggets, Steve, and I think it's great because there's such a strong correlation, between like some of the like when you said, like people wanting immediate payback for what they're doing now regarding like their networking or whatever. That's the mentality that I run across when I see other people trying to reach out. So I'm glad that you gave some of those nuggets on networking because that is something that all of us could really learn from. I mean, it's like way back when we did like when we were first back touring recruiters, right? We did some area canvassing. Well, you didn't hang up
Yes.
posters.
Yeah.
You didn't hang up posters. You didn't put out business cards. You didn't put your business card on the public phones and stuff to get it now. You did that for you planted a seed and you watched it grow. So I think what you talked about is real important that that when you make those when you're making that that reach out to connect with folks and to network, man, you're doing it with a purpose, and then your main purpose is not going to be immediate payback. I know that I had
Correct.
some folks that immediately hooked up with me, and they helped me out and stuff, but for the most part, it takes time to build and have quality relationships. So I appreciate you kind
Yeah,
of being
perpetuated
like that.
perpetuated relationships or skills, or even like it's a sales thing, perpetuation, right? Like an example, I was the Middlesex County Air Force recruiter here in Jersey, which is wild because where I work at now is in the county just above where I used to be the Air Force recruiter. In North Brunswick High School is one example. When I first went in there, none of the guidance counselors would talk to me. They wouldn't give me the time of day. They had a bad experience with another service branch recruiter. Nothing against the branch. Sometimes they're knuckleheads everywhere. But because they got a bad taste in their mouth, they just kind of like wouldn't talk to any of us. None of the guys, none of the female recruiters, male recruiters, they didn't want to talk to none of us, right? They would just be like, there's your wall over there. Go put your lit, right? Your literature. And I was like, you know what, man, we got to change this. So like one day I got a basket of fruit and bagels and cream cheese, man. I just came in and said, hey, you know what? I appreciate you guys. I put that on the table and I walked out. That's it.
Yep. Don't ask
I
for
didn't
nothing.
ask for nothing. I came in
Exactly.
the next time. Hey, man, I appreciate you guys. Here's some Dunkin' Donuts coffee. Here's some donuts. You know what? I appreciate you guys letting me come in here. I really do. Thank you so much. I left. That third time I came back, one of the guidance counselors was like, you got a business card? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
You know
that's
what? You
it. Yep,
I'm
exactly.
glad that you said
Awesome,
that. I'm
man.
going to kind of wrap up on that note or kind of guide us in because I mean, we still have to talk about just a minor moment of football. I mean, we are in football season right now.
Yeah, I was wondering the same thing.
That Tony, you go first. Who are we rooting for?
Well, I was going to ask, since Steve is the host, I wanted to see what Steve's thoughts were, and then I'll share mine, obviously, as soon as I ask him. NFC, AFC, who's going to be there and who's going to win the Super Bowl? They won't. They won't. No, you got to be realistic sometimes, buddy. Okay.
First time in a long time.
Yeah. I think it's a real good year. I love seeing how competitive it's gotten, how just losing one game, like in the case of the 49ers, right? Lost one game and then dropped them to number 6 seeding. But I think overall, based on what I'm seeing, I think the Seahawks are going to be there, and I think the Broncos are going to be there. I mean, I don't have anything staked in I live in Tennessee. Obviously, my Titans are awful, but I just think that those teams are well coached, and wow, they can do some good things.
How about you, Delaina? Who you picking?
Well, I usually take the people that I don't like and figure out what teams they root for, and those are the teams that I don't want to go
Ooh.
because I'm just a little petty Betty. But no, I'm just kidding. But
okay.
the Jaguars did win the AFC South, even though, yes, I know, but they have been coming along. They're not my team. I'm still a free agent NFL football fan, but they are coming along, and their quarterback's been doing really good. So you never know. I'm kind of hoping they keep it going.
Well, I believe with what you just said, the Jaguars, you got to go from hot to cold. And it's going to run through Denver and the AFC. I believe the Denvers will represent the AFC, and Chicago's been on a tear. I love their coach, the energy and everything he brings. I mean, when old boy took his shirt off and he already just blasted all over social media, even before that, he proved leaving Detroit that he was the key ingredient of what made Detroit successful. So if he's now in Chicago and they've turned that thing around this year, Chicago and Denver, and I believe Sean Payton will be one of the first dudes to actually win the Super Bowl with 2 different teams. So I got the Denver winning everything.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Hey, this is going to be this. Yeah, it
Oh,
can't
yeah.
be done, but y'all shouldn't even be there. I mean, look what happened at the end for y'all to make it. Like I missed a 40-yard field goal for you to squeeze by. Hey, you're right. Hey, and
A
we're
win is
the
a
win.
win.
You're right. And rowing is racing.
Oh my goodness. Well, I really
And this
appreciate
was
you.
a lot of fun.
This was a
Yeah.
lot of fun, and I'm glad that it still had its moments. It's serious, it's fun, it's conversation. I'm really grateful you came on to come chat with us, Steve. You're amazing. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in with us here at Zero Dark Thirsty, senior to senior, getting those senior level veterans their time to shine. And hearing about their stories and getting it out there for you guys so that way you can see that you are not alone in this. For one, your story is definitely relatable to so many others that are out there. If you want to connect with Steven, definitely link below, connect with Steven or any of us actually. Our links will be in the description. Check out Verizon's careers page. If you are looking for a position, there could be something out there for you with where you're looking to retire at. So definitely check them out. And we will see you next time on Zero Dark Thirsty.
And thank you, Delaina.